CFB Paint back again, week 4 preview. All right, before we get into it, I think we should review some of our picks from last week because your boy has had 2 weeks in a row where he's come out on top, and that just never happens. So I'm going to brag about it. I don't know if you have your picks handy. I'm going to go ahead and read off mine. Okay. All right. I'll be accountable. I'll go ahead and read off mine from this last week. Memphis minus 14.5 versus Navy did not happen. Virginia at Maryland, I took Maryland minus 14. Yes, that one happened. Air Force minus 9 against, I didn't even write down the opponent now, and I'm blanking on it.
Doesn't matter.
They won by more. FSU minus 27.5. Yeah, right. That did not happen. Again, this is the one.
If you 100 players to play in that game, I went through the math. I was like 58, 53, something like that. It was not many.
Well, one of the things that I commented even before the game on our last YouTube video was just like, yeah, I probably should check and see if there's a hurricane approaching before I expect them to cover such a big number. Not to mention, like, Boston College played a great game. Well, they didn't play a clean game, but they played very tough and kept that one really close. So no dice there. Louisville at Indiana under 54. That one cashed easy. Penn State minus 14.5. That one we got as well. Did not get Kansas State minus 4.5. Harrison Mevis keeping that one from going to overtime, where maybe we had a chance if they scored a touchdown and held Mizzou out, but that didn't happen. Georgia minus 27.5. No, we covered that one as well. Colorado minus 22.5. Nope. That was a closer game, double overtime. UNC minus 7.5. Yes. Washington minus 16. Yes. Tennessee at Florida under 57.5. Yes. TCU at Houston under or over 60. No. So 7-6 on the week. I think that brings me to 21-9 over the last 2 weeks, though. I had a big time heater the week before. That was something. But I guess before we get into week 4, I humbly ask, if you're watching this, listening to it, like it, share it, subscribe it. If you got friends that you think would like the pod, feel free to introduce them to it. Appreciate all the support. We've had some really good weeks. And yeah, we're looking to keep expanding our reach. So whatever you can do, we certainly appreciate. But yeah, let's get into it. Week 4, this is not short on big-time matchups. I think I maybe mentioned this between recordings, but I am going to be out of town this weekend, and I am kicking myself for saying, yeah, we can do that, that's fine, without like really looking intently at the slate. I looked at 1 or 2 games. I knew that Florida State Clemson was going to be on. I was like, oh, that'll probably be the night game. I'll be able to catch the night game. What a mistake on my part. But it should be fun. Like, we'll have a good time. I'm just trying to figure out, do I go on airplane mode and try and shut her down so that I can watch all these games play out, even if it's not in real time? I get to kind of see the entirety of the game without knowing the result. Man, where do you want to start, Corey?
I'm going to start with texting you and calling you and emailing you. Anything I can to make sure you have updates.
So you may have to send a carrier pigeon, and yeah. I'm not sure you'll know where to.
Like, I'm going to knock on the door and be like, what are you doing? I'm like, it's only a 3-hour drive, bro. I'm here to tell you what's going on.
Ohio State's beating Notre Dame. That was 3 hours ago. They're probably done now.
But, no, dude, I have my phone with me, so I can tell you live updates.
Oh, there you go. All right. Well, where do you want to start as far as like?
Let's go.
Games
I like how we do it. Let's go through Thursday, Friday, and if there's any games you want us to talk about, and then keep going through the time slate.
All right. Sounds good. We have a couple of these, but I might pull out a few others that just, are ones that I might take a minute or two to just talk through. Thursday, September 21st. Again, time stamping this. We are recording this 11:30 at night Mountain Time. 9 on September 18th, so 9/18. So lines will move, things will change. Like, we just want to make sure that like as of time of recording, this is what we're looking at. Again, there may be injury information that comes out after this. We'll always include this on the preview pods just so you kind of keep that in mind. So if there's something that we miss, kind of this typically would be released on Thursday, I think Thursday or Friday. So there may be developments between now and then that we're unable to cover here because we can't see into the future. But Thursday, night, September 21st, Georgia State at Coastal Carolina. Early opportunity for Georgia State or Coastal to kind of get a leg up in the Sun Belt and go 1-0 in the conference. Love that we're starting to get into the conference slate where some of these games have a little bit more stakes other than like bragging rights or conference supremacy, which to me it's like half these teams aren't going to be in the same conference in another year or two, so I don't know how much that matters. But it sure matters when it comes to conference titles. So Georgia State, Coastal Carolina. I will admit I have not laid eyes on either of these teams this year. I think Coastal Carolina, and immediately I just go, oh, they've got Grayson McCullough quarterback, and that's it. So I really don't know if I'm touching this one as far as like picking it, but excited to see it. Georgia State, I think, is you know, they've played a lot of teams tough over the last couple of years. 3-0 this year, heading into a tough place in Conway, South Carolina to play. It'll be a ruckus crowd. It currently is Coastal Carolina -6.5. Yeah, I don't know if I have a play on this one, but I definitely will be tuned in.
Yeah, I wouldn't play on this one. Georgia State's strength of schedule so far has been like 130th overall, according to Bill Conley. So they're not been like super, super great, but they've put away teams. And so like I wouldn't bet on this one. I'm terrified. I have Colorado or Coastal Carolina on my wins draft team. I'm hoping it goes the way it should, but I wouldn't put money on it. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Georgia State wins this game.
Yeah, should be a fun one. The Fun Belt gets us kicked off on a big weekend here. Friday night, Wisconsin at Purdue. This one's interesting. Purdue is a 7-point home underdog, 54.5-point total. We're not scoring 54.5 points in this game, are we?
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't think so, but I'm not going to put money on that one.
I'm going to put that as a pick. I'm going to go under 54.5 under for Wisconsin. Let me write it down. Wisconsin at Purdue. I'm going to say we go under that total. I just don't know how much either of these teams is really going to score. So I don't really trust either offense. I also don't really trust the defenses either. So this is one of those games where it could be, I could see this being like a 13-7 midway through the third quarter, but I could also see it being so sloppy that there's just big plays and turnovers for touchdowns. And so it's kind of all over the place, but I think I'm on the right side of that, taking the under 54.5.
Are you
I
picking
got
the
to see
winner?
more from, I mean, not on my like official plays, but I think Wisconsin will win the game. And if I was to pick it, I would say they probably cover. But I think Wisconsin's got to figure some things out still. Like they've got some work to do still.
I agree with you, but I think they start to move in the right direction. I think they start to figure things out. They won 35-14 against Georgia Southern. They lost 31-22 against Washington State. So they're starting to get like some distance between teams that they should beat. Purdue is probably better than Georgia Southern, but I think this team kind of figures it out, and they beat this team by 7 points, by over 7 points. So I'm picking Wisconsin to win this one. I'm writing my
Okay.
stuff down so I can be accountable next week too. So just a flat.
All right. I just like it's like I just remember writing them down the first time we decided to like take this format. I was like, I know I'm just gonna get crushed. But I don't know if you saw Andy Staples' picks from this last week.
I did not.
He had 9 picks and was 9. Oh gosh, I'm gonna get the number wrong. Whatever, about 9. 0 of 9. Like it just takes talent to be that wrong. So I figured that was coming for me. It didn't happen, and so far we've got 2 straight weeks being above the numbers. All right, let's move further on the Friday slate. NC State at Virginia. Man, NC State's let me down. They don't have receivers. Have you noticed that? Like, I think that's what's holding Brennan Armstrong back. Yeah, I know you're a Brennan Armstrong, Robert, and I hater. I think the problem's on the outside. I think they don't have guys that can really get separation or do a whole lot after the catch, which I guess I just hadn't really didn't expect that going into the season. I thought they had some decent playmakers on the outside for the Wolfpack and a little bit of research would have told me some of those have transferred out, and others I think they've got a couple of injuries in the wide receiver core, if memory serves me right too. So, um, but you know who, as much as down as I am on them, I'm way more down on Virginia. They are 9.5 point underdogs, and you can cover that with only scoring 20 points if you're NC State, I think. So give me the Wolfpack minus 9.5 versus
Um,
NC State.
you're right. I'm not a Brennan Armstrong fan. For the record, he's thrown 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions this year. But I'm way worse on Virginia, and I expect NC State to cover as well.
All right. A little Friday ACC action for you. Here's a fun one. Out in the Mountain West, Boise State at San Diego State. This line kind of surprises me a little bit. I know San Diego State doesn't have a killer offense, but they're 7 point underdogs at home to the Boise State Broncos. 45.5 is the point total. Definitely going to be a lower scoring game. For me, here's the way I see this one playing out. Boise State doesn't pass the ball particularly well. San Diego State typically has a pretty stout run defense. I have not paid super close attention to their games thus far this year, but they haven't let teams like really, really run away from them in terms of like scoring boatloads of points. So I agree that the point total should be pretty low. I I don't know. I think I've got an under here on this one as well. I know that point total's low. I'm just not sure it's low enough.
Yeah, so 45 divided by 2 is what, 22.5? So you're looking plus 3.5. So you're looking at like what, 26 to 19 is the expected score right there. There's some quick math for you.
Yes.
I'm going to take the over on that, and I have no idea who wins this game, but I'm taking the over on that.
Interesting. So, hold on just a second. Let me pull up San Diego State schedule. So thus far, again, they've played at. Hold on. Sorry, was on a website that was immediately auto played an ad in my ears and
Are
just
you talking about San Diego State though? They played Ohio, they played Idaho State,
yes.
UCLA, and Oregon State. Against Ohio, they scored 20 points. Idaho State, they scored 36. UCLA, they scored 10. Oregon State, they scored 9. Boise
Yeah,
State,
so
on
they're
the
not
other
going to
hand,
score a point.
has scored 19 in a loss to Washington, 16 in a loss to UCF, and then like 40 something in a win against 42 in a win against North Dakota.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel pretty good about the under.
I just think these two teams might be just that inept, and we may actually see some fireworks here.
All right. As far as winning the game, I think Boise State wins. Like I'll go ahead and predict that. Again, it's not a play in terms of like against a number, but I think Boise State would win that game.
Yeah, I think Boise State should win that game, but I mean they look terrible this year too. So San Diego State hasn't looked much better.
Yeah. The last one, we're going to stay in the Mountain West. Air Force at San Jose State. We mentioned this, I think, on the last pod that Air Force uh, has done pretty well so far, but they've got a kind of a unique challenge in San Jose State, who's played a pretty tough schedule. They're battle tested at the very least. They've played Southern Cal, they played Oregon State. I think they've had some injuries there, but this one's a home game. They're 3.5 point underdogs to Air Force, 47 point total. I don't know. I think again, not an official play as far as like putting money on it, and of course I'm not gambling on any of these, but I got my kind of official picks, but I like the Spartans to make this one interesting. I think they come out with the win
Oh,
against
that's
Air
interesting.
Force.
I definitely do. I have Air Force covering this game. I think Air Force is going to be able to move the ball on San Jose State. They've been letting up quite a bit of rushing yards, and I think they're going to be able to do okay on it. I think
I
they're
just think
averaging
that San Jose
4.6.
State has.
So
Oh,
San
go
Jose
ahead.
State has
Sorry.
4.6 yards a carry against them currently, and you played USC, Oregon State, which is a good running team. I would say USC is a good running team, and then Cal Poly and Toledo.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Again, it's kind of a late Friday game. I, Air Force is obviously a really, really challenging opponent to prep for. So, again, that's like it's not an official like pick for me, but I think I think they got something for them this time. It's their first time on the road, Air Force this year, so it's
Yeah.
their first time kind of traveling. We'll see. Again, Air Force is a great team. I think that they're probably the class of the Mountain West, but something tells me San Jose State's got a little something for them. All right, was there any others that we wanted to hit on the? I guess we probably covered all the Friday slate.
Yeah, the
Sorry,
Friday
my
slate,
bad.
I'm good.
All right, we on to Saturday. We'll kind of go like in order of kicks. We've got what 10 of these selected, but I might pull in one or two others just kind of after we go through these ones. Oklahoma at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is a 14-point home underdog. Are they holding Oklahoma under the total's 60.5? I don't think they're holding Oklahoma under 45.
Yeah, so if you do 16.5 divided by 3, that's 30 essentially plus 7. So you're looking at like a 37 to 23 score around that. Um, yeah, I don't think so. I think Oklahoma covers this for sure.
Yeah,
I don't
Oklahoma
know if I have the
wins.
over. I don't know if I have Cincinnati scoring 20 something points against
Yeah,
Oklahoma.
I'm right there with you. I think Oklahoma like plus 14 to me seems so small that it's almost one of those things where the line is so different than what I think it should be that I get nervous.
I think they've shown struggles in some of their games. I mean, they struggled with SMU. I mean, the final was 28-11, but it was a lot closer than that. But the other games, Arkansas State and Tulsa, they've blown out. So it's like, all right, those two teams were not very good. SMU's a little bit better. Cincinnati should be a step up in competition even from SMU. But in reality, I think they just were in a funk in that game, and I don't think that's the true Oklahoma colors. So I'm picking Oklahoma to cover.
Yeah,
No Sooners. Only time I'll ever say that.
I'm right there
SMU
with you. I
Kyle.
think this is a yeah, this is a welcome to the Big 12 moment for Cincinnati, and I think Oklahoma reminds them like, hey, you're stepping up in competition. We're also going to step up in competition, and there's tiers between this. There's levels to this, if you will. I've got Oklahoma winning and covering. I am tempted to look at that total and think Oklahoma scores enough to hit the over, but I'm right there with you. Maybe it's something where they're up by enough in late in the game that they just kind of coast out. So give me Oklahoma to cover the 2 touchdown spread on the road against the Bearcats.
Yep, me too. Next game,
Right.
Florida State Clemson. Line currently that we have line that we have is 1.5. I think it's been moved up to
I think it's
2.
been bet up to 2. We'll say it's 2.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on this? I'm higher on Clemson than I think a lot of people are. I think Clemson's a better team than they showed against Duke. They started to click against FAU, or was it FAU earlier this week? I don't know.
FAU, yeah.
FAU. We'll see how they continue. But I think once this team has had to learn its offensive coordinator, this offensive coordinator had to learn this team's strengths, and they're starting to get it. They struggled against Duke. They struggled in the first half against
Charleston Southern.
thank you, Charleston Southern, and then it clicked in the second half, and it clicked in this next game, and it's like you had some cupcakes kind of warm you up in this game, but if Florida State can play up to the potential that they played against LSU, and if that defense shows up, this could be anybody's game. I would not touch this game with a 10-foot pole.
I will, and it's not just happiness insurance. Give me Clemson minus or plus 2.
Really?
You're telling me I get the what 7 of the last 8 ACC championship games, or 7 of the last 8 ACC champions have been the Clemson Tigers. I get them at home and I get points. That's nuts. Like, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but like, you never get that. You never get that. Vegas is giving me points. Like, they
Yeah.
don't even have to win, and I
Nope.
can still cash. Yeah, give me the Tigers. Again, it is one of those, we've talked about this, I think, last season with like my thought process on like, I don't gamble, but if I was to, like, happiness insurance would be what I would do, where it's like I bet against what I want to happen, and that way, if it happens, it's like I paid for it. Like, would I pay $100 to see Florida State beat Clemson? Absolutely. Uh, and so if I pay it and I lose, well, that's the result I wanted anyway. But if it the opposite is true. Like, okay, I'm not thrilled with the result, but at least I'm coming into some money, right? Um,
Exactly.
and so but even setting that aside, like, yeah, I think you're right. I think Clemson's starting to kind of hit their stride a little bit. Now, one of the things that I think gets glossed over in this win over FAU, like, they had 4 turnovers. They were able to get 4 turnovers against FAU, and and that was really what made the game a runaway. Including, I think they had one for a touchdown. Oh, I can't remember if they scored multiple times on defense, but maybe just the once. Um, but so that kind of skews the numbers to me a little bit, where it's like, okay, they won 48-14, but they're beneficiaries of 4 turnovers. What's that game look like if FAU plays a clean game? Um, and it's closer. So to me, this is more like what Florida State team shows up. If you get the Florida State team that is locked in, that played against LSU, this could get out of hand. I think there's a world where Florida State can beat Clemson by 21. I don't know if there's a world where Clemson beats Florida State by 21. I
Yeah,
don't think that
I
world
see.
exists.
I haven't seen Florida State feel like they've been able to stop the run against a decent runner. Granted, I don't feel like they've faced a great running back yet.
No, I would say you're right. They
But
haven't. I mean, Frank Gore, but he was behind a line that didn't really stand a
yeah, that
chance. Frank
absolutely.
Gore Jr., I should say, not Frank Gore.
He was so mad at the end of that game. Good night.
Oh my gosh, I felt bad for him.
I know. But yeah, this is your first running back that you're going against, and this defensive line is supposed to be good, but we'll see.
Yeah, so that's where I'm on Clemson as an underdog at home in Death Valley.
They did lose
It's a
one of
noon
their starting
game,
wide
so it won't be
receivers.
quite the juiced environment that it could have potentially been.
Yeah,
Sorry, what were you saying?
they did lose one of their starting wide receivers out for the season.
Oh, I was not aware of that. Who
So
was
far,
it?
Cole Turner.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's probably not a big drop off there.
Yeah, I don't think they have very good receivers. Period. To be honest.
I don't think they're great. I'm much more on the Garrett Riley can scheme it up, and
Yeah,
again, I don't even have to have them win.
yeah.
Like, they
I'm
just
not
have to
touching it,
keep it close.
but I'm really hoping Florida State pulls it out.
Yeah, obviously as a fan, I am rooting for Florida State to get the monkey off their back. They've lost 7 straight to Clemson, so it's time for that to end. Um, but if you're asking me what I think is going to happen, like, you have to exercise that demon if you're Florida State, and I got to see it to believe it. So
Yeah.
I'm picking the Tigers. Um, Ole Miss at Alabama. Ole Miss has scored a boatload of points. Bama has only scored a boatload of points in. Well, I guess they played. Scored 34 against. What they scored, or 24 against Texas, not 34.
Texas, yeah.
Excuse me. Um, man, this one I have no idea what to do with this one. Again, Ole Miss going into Tuscaloosa. Uh, -7 is the line in favor of Alabama. 55-point total. Uh, Bama doesn't score a whole ton, but they're playing a defense that I don't think is stellar in Ole Miss's defense, so they might be able to get right there. But I mean, they played USF last week. Granted, with a different QB play, maybe that game looks a little bit different. Um, and Jalen Milroe will be the starter. Nick Saban has announced that he's the guy going forward. And then you get Ole Miss, who scored a boatload of points but hasn't played against really strong defensive competition. Their offense hasn't. I don't have a play on this game.
Oh, I
I
do.
Oh, you do? Let's
Give
hear
me
it.
Ole Miss, Jackson Dart. I think they win it. I don't think they lose. I don't think they cover the spread. I think they win it,
Wow.
and I think they win it by close to 10 points, if not more. I think this is a double-digit win. I'm gonna say I think it's a double-digit win.
So you got Bama with 2 losses in the month of September.
I just think I was really, really, really high on Bama because I thought that offensive line could do what it needed to do, and it's clearly shown that it can't.
Yeah, it's a
Granted,
problem.
Ole Miss's defensive line is not Texas' defensive line. Let's be real. So they're going to be able to move the ball a little bit more, quite a little bit more. But I'm a Jackson Dart believer. I'm a Lane Kiffin believer. He pulls games out that he shouldn't pull out. He's not a coach that I feel like you lose a game because of him. I think he's a coach that you win a game because of him, that you shouldn't win. And I'm all about this.
Awesome. I don't know if I have a play, but I think that one is good. That's in the 3:30 slate, right?
Let me see.
Sorry, I've moved away from the full like calendar of
Yeah, that's
games.
at the 3:30 or the 1:30, depending on if you're our
Yeah,
stuff.
3:30 Eastern, I
Yeah,
should say. I should include the time zone. Yeah, that one will be a big one. Um, Also at 3:30, who's actually is this even on our board? I don't. Oh, there it is. It's just one further down. So never mind. We'll talk UCLA at Utah first. Um, when is Cam Rising going to play? Do we have any insight on that?
even if he does, I mean, I already know where.
You don't think it matters?
I don't think it does.
I,
This UCLA team's gonna beat them. Like, I'm
wow.
surprised Utah's favored 4.5 points at home. Like, I think UCLA is the better team. I think they have the better quarterback, and they've just looked really, really good this year. And so I'm taking UCLA not only to cover but to win.
Interesting. So
They haven't
yeah, it's
played anybody,
crazy. Like
right? They played NC Central, they played San Diego State, they played Coastal Carolina, but they've had a chance to get their team under control. They've had chances to kind of get their freshman quarterback. This will be like I would have liked to see this game at night because I would have seen like to see their freshman quarterback underneath the lights. But I
under the
mean,
lights. Yeah.
yeah, he's gotten 7 touchdowns, 1 interception against inferior talent. Let's be real. But Carson Steele is running ragged. I mean, he's at 243 yards on 30 carries, running at 8.1 yards a carry against the previous teams. He probably won't do the same thing, but they are going to be a balanced team that can do whatever they need to do. So yeah, give me UCLA to cover to win. The line is 51.5. I don't know. I don't like touching the over unders because I never have a clue on the over under.
I feel like I've become a little bit more like just learning how to like pace of play obviously plays into it, and strategies obviously like Florida. Here's a cheat code for you. They're probably going to try and drag teams into the muck and play ugly games. So unders is a good place to look
Yeah, but the
for.
line should adjust itself too.
Well, yeah, but it's just one of those things where it's yeah, they'll move it to a certain degree, but I'm just saying that they're always going to try and shorten games. Like, so it's one of those things. Um, well, oh my gosh, another ad as I'm trying to keep up with the schedule. I'm sorry about
No,
that.
you're good.
So yeah, that UCLA game, it's so weird. Like, so yeah, Utah is favored 4.5. ESPN's matchup predictor, which again you and I think is kind of garbage, but it is fun to kind of just see like, okay, how different is it from my own opinion? 65.7% likelihood of victory for Utah. To me, this boils down to yeah, how does Dante Moore respond to being on the road? Obviously, he played in Snapdragon Stadium against San Diego State. To me, different environments, right? Utah's that place is going to be packed. Utah is a fringe top 10 team, ranked opponent to kick off conference play. Place is going to be wild, right? That place is going to be wild. I don't care
Except
that
for
it's
it's like
an
it's in the
afternoon
middle of
game.
the day. It's 1:30.
I think they'll bring the noise. That to me is like, yeah, it may not be the exact same environment as if this was played at 7 o'clock at night, but I think it will be an intimidating, raucous environment. I believe that they'll be ready. The fans will be ready to make that as difficult on a freshman quarterback as possible. The question becomes like, is he ready? What do they have in terms of a game plan to help him settle into the game? Do they try and run it early and often? I would imagine they do, but can they run it against Utah's front? We'll have to see. I think Utah again, just all the respect in the world for both Kyle Whittingham and Morgan Scalley, the defensive minds from a coaching perspective. I think they've got some pretty good talent and pretty good personnel. So this one's going to be fun. I think this is obviously going to be a really physical matchup, as their last several have been, where they um, have had kind of knockdown, drag out fights. Um, last go around, Zach Charbonnet kind of got the best of them, and so maybe that's the case with Carson Steele. Again, I don't have like an official play on this one. Man, this one I think is so close. The question to me is like who plays quarterback for Utah if they're having to do either the two quarterback system or their own true freshman. I think I give the edge to the Bruins. If have we heard if Rising's going to play? Like I've not been
Let me look
following
it up. I haven't
detail
seen
that
anything.
closely. Yeah, go ahead and Google it for just a second, because to me that might be the edge in this game. It's like if you're playing with a veteran quarterback who's
They're
been around the block,
preparing
even
for
if it's first time.
Yeah,
What?
they're preparing for Cam Rising's potential season debut, but nothing says that Cam Rising's been announced.
Okay. I mean, this is probably what you've been saving him for, right? Like, is like you thought, oh, maybe we can get through the non-con unscathed, or even just with one loss. Like, if you lost, at home to Florida, that's not killing your season. Like, you win out, you're still probably a playoff team if you're Utah. So I wonder if this is what they've been trying to hold him, make sure he's ready. But so if Rising plays, I will say, yeah, give me the Utes to win. Otherwise, I think this thing's on a razor's edge. Otherwise, if they're playing with Nate Johnson and doing kind of some of that not wildcat, but just like he's pretty limited as a passer this far. So I think that plays into UCLA's hands if they're more predictable from an offensive standpoint. So it really hinges on if Rising plays or not. If Rising plays, I'm taking the Utes. If not, I'm taking the Bruins. But again, not an official play on my like tracker card here,
You tracker card.
whatever you want to call it.
No, I like it. I just think it's easy.
This is the one I was looking to see, because for a second there, at a glance, I thought it wasn't on there. But like, how can we not talk about Colorado? Everyone talks about Colorado. They go to Eugene. They go to Autzen Stadium. 20.5 point underdogs to the Oregon Ducks.
Is
I
that a
am so.
typo?
It's not. It's not. And I mean, I don't know what to make of this. I feel like I've seen Oregon be like a different team most weeks, and I'm not selling on them, right? Like I think that they're good. Obviously we saw them struggle against Texas Tech. Um, I I don't know what to make of this one. I have Oregon winning. I'm predicting Oregon to win, right? I like that to me is, unless you get a Herculean effort from Shedeur Sanders and some of those receivers against Oregon's defensive backs, I just don't see a way that they really can win this game. I don't see a way that they really uh, slow down Oregon's offense. I think that they're going to be just fine. I don't know if they cover that 20.5 points, but something tells me in my head, like, for the teams that can beat Colorado, they're going to try and grind them into the dirt, right? They're going to try and win by as many as possible. Just you realize you now have a recruiting powerhouse that you're against, and you need to make statements against it, while you can, is part of it. So I am struggling. That 20.5 seems like a really big number,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I don't know. I don't think I'm touching like the spread. I'm predicting Oregon to win, and I don't know about the total either. So I think I'm laying off of that one too.
So I'm a big Dan Lanning fan. I think he's a great defensive mind. I think they win this game too, but I don't think there's any way to beat Colorado by 21 points. I mean, Colorado's going to score 25, 28. You're not scoring more than that. Like, you're not scoring 48 points on against Colorado. Like, maybe you do, but like 28, 48, it's still 20 points. Like,
Yeah,
I feel like Colorado's going to put up. It's going to be dang near impossible to stop Colorado because they just run these spreads. You're hurt by the fact that you lost Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter.
But he's only one of 5 of your guys' people, like, or 4 or 5 receivers that you had out there.
Yeah, Jimmy Horn, Xavier Weaver. They're not short on weapons.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm going to take Colorado to cover, but I don't think they win. I think it's a 17-point win.
Yeah, I don't know. I can kind of argue this both ways, where it's like I think I trust Oregon's offense more than I trust TCU's offense, and TCU put up 42 on them.
Yeah.
So like I really could see that going either way. Again, the matchup to me where there's the biggest mismatch is the trenches on both sides of the ball. I think
Yeah.
Oregon's offensive line pretty stout. Oregon's defensive line very stout, and I think that you're going to see some of that pop up. And Shedeur, for all of his accolades, he does hold the ball a long time and takes hits that I don't think he has to. Like, especially, I don't know if you watched this last game, or of course you were. We were talking about it, but like on the touchdown to tie the game, Like, he takes a hit when his guy's open for
Yeah.
like 6 yards. Like, he's wide open. There's no one on him, and he just like waits to see it, then throws it and takes a hit as he's letting it go. Now, again, salute to him having the whatever you want to call it, the guts to stand in there and take that hit. But it's also one that's like, I'm a little concerned that you didn't see that quicker, right? Like,
Yeah.
especially since it looks like it's his primary read. Like, it looks like he's looking at the guy and just like waits an extra second. He's like, let me make sure I'm not about to throw a pick. Um,
I'd
but
be interested to see what the line was with Travis Hunter in this game. Like, I would definitely expect them to cover with the 21 points with Travis Hunter.
mhm.
Now I'm like, I think they will. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, especially since he affects both sides of the ball, which is really
Exactly.
interesting. Like how much are you factoring in that in if you're a handicapper for a sports book? Like,
Yeah.
like
You
he
better be
plays
because
defense and he will slow down your offense to a degree, right? He's at least going to shut down probably your primary option,
yep.
and then also he's going to be someone who can eventually light the scoreboard up on the offensive side of the ball.
Well, and
So
I think the change in your quarterback 2 to your quarterback 3 is pretty significant compared to your quarterback. Like, so you would have had Travis Hunter and you would have had a Marion Cooper on the outside. Now you have a Marion Cooper playing as your quarterback 1, and then
Breed Love, I can't remember his first name.
I'm not a huge fan of him playing the CB3. I feel like there's a drop off from him to Cooper,
For
but
sure, for sure. So yeah, I think that's where we're at with that one. That one will be fun. We'll see. Can Colorado keep the magic rolling? I don't think so. And as raucous as that TCU environment was in Game 1, I think Austin is a different stage of intimidating. That's a really loud crowd, and they pride themselves on it. And they've got a statement to make, and the bodacious Heisman campaign. They're investing a lot into that. Don't trip over the Buffaloes here. Um, Next one that we have, Arkansas at LSU. Um, I don't know if you have a thought on this one. I can let you go first.
yeah. So it's at home at LSU. LSU played phenomenal, but to lay or there Arkansas's laying 18 points there, or sorry, LSU's laying 18 points.
Yeah,
That's significant. Are they 18 points better than this? Yeah, I honestly think, yeah, you have a 35-17 win here. That sounds reasonable to me. Um, so yeah, do they cover? I'm not betting on this game. Honestly, I think that's about right where I would put it, 35-17. The over under is 55, so take that divided by 2. What is that? 28, add 9. So 37. They're looking around 37 to whatever, to, I can't do my math off the top of my head, but 36 something.
37-21.
Yeah.
Do that right?
It might be 30, yeah, 36 or 34-21. Something like that. 36-20. That's
Yeah,
still,
something. Well, it's got to be 18. So
yeah. So 37-19 is what they're saying the line is.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not quite there.
I don't know if Arkansas is scoring that much on them. I've got LSU to cover here,
Okay.
because I think you've got enough weaponry on the outside for Jaden Daniels to score some points. Arkansas can't block. Like, they couldn't block BYU's defensive line. Like,
Yeah, BYU is,
LSU's is way better.
yeah,
So that's the thing. And the other thing that I think you need here, if you're Arkansas, if you're going to keep it close, is you need the QB run game. And I think number one, Harold Perkins is what?
do they spy him, use him as a spy again?
I mean, I think that you can trust that he's faster
Yeah,
than KJ Jefferson, and you can go after him a little bit more. But also, like, KJ Jefferson's a big physical runner, but your other backer, Omar Spates, is a thumper. Like, I think that you need that weapon, and I mean, BYU showed you some of. I mean, again, that wasn't a fantastic defensive effort by BYU by any stretch, but I mean, the fact that they were getting home with 4 and were able to collapse the pocket around KJ, I'm telling you, it's a different animal when you're going up against Mason Smith and Mekhi Wingo in the center that can really push the pocket back right into, push an offensive guard or a center right into your lap. And I know that there's some questions around pass rusher for LSU that I still have, but like, I mean, I know what they've got is got to be better than what BYU has. Like, it's just
Yeah.
so. I've got LSU covering the 18 at home. The big one.
Huh?
I said the
Oh,
big
yeah.
one.
Ohio State, Notre Dame, at Notre Dame. Ohio State has the best receivers in the country. Do they have the quarterback figured out? Like, they had McCord was given the starting role last week, looked good. Can they capitalize on Notre Dame? I mean, they're 3.5 point favorites at Notre, or 3 point favorites at Notre Dame. Give me Notre Dame, dude. I love the balance of Notre Dame. I love the opportunities that they have. I do not think this Notre Dame defense is going to be able to stop Ohio State, but I think the offense is going to be balanced enough to score enough points to win this game. So not only do they cover, they win.
Wow. I'm on the opposite end of this. I think Ohio State covers the spread. I think it's just add this one to a list of disappointing outcomes for Notre Dame in these biggest of games. Here's my thought process here. Notre Dame, I think, is fine offensively, right? They're balanced. Ohio State has not, for the struggles they've had, defense hasn't been one of them. They've been really, really good defensively. So I think that's, I don't want to say a stalemate, but I think that they can hold Notre Dame to less than 24 points, right? I think somewhere in there is probably what Notre Dame's scoring. I think if Ohio State is able to me, the name of the game here is you have to be able to run the ball to enough of an extent that you're able to open up the field for your receivers and block it up for Kyle McCord. Those are the big things that I'm looking for in this game is can they block it up? Can they keep Kyle McCord clean? I feel like maybe I'm reading in too much to one game, but they had a great game offensively this last week. I think I'm excited to see what happens now that Kyle McCord's been named the starter and has has one game under his belt where he's not looking over his shoulder, right?
Yeah.
So I think Ohio State wins this one. Obviously, my rooting interests are probably toward Notre Dame just because they're on my win totals draft team. Love that this game's being played. I obviously wish this is one of those matchups that I'd like to see played more frequently, or at least Notre Dame playing Michigan, playing the best of the Big Ten. I think is kind of cool. So I think this one is close, but I think Ohio State ends up winning this game by about 10. I think they kind of a late touchdown to put a little breathing room on them. And we're saying, Ohio State's answered all the questions, and then it turns to, okay, can they beat Michigan?
Also, give me the over in this game. 54.5. But, I mean, these teams are both capable of scoring 28, 35 points. If they can score around that point, they're breaking that easily.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's definitely the offensive firepower to do that. I just think Ohio State's defense has the potential to shut Notre Dame down. Again, like I said, I don't see them scoring more than 24.
But I mean,
again,
if you score 24 points, that means Notre Dame's won, or Ohio State's won the game 31-24, and you're hitting the over.
Yeah, potentially. You're right. Like I'm saying like that's the ceiling of what I see for Notre Dame. So like I think it's possible they score 17 or 13. Like I think that there's a world that exists there. I also just kind of this is a big test I think for Marcus Freeman. I think the pressure sits on Notre Dame, not on Ohio State to win this game. Maybe you could argue that it's the other way around because Ohio State's expected to win, and they're replacing obviously the most important position, and the results have been kind of a mixed bag to this point. I think Ryan Day and Brian Hartline will have them ready. We'll scheme a couple things open, and obviously they have the best wide receiver tandem in the country, in my opinion, and I just think that they're going to be able to score enough to win the game and to cover that 3-point spread.
Yeah, I mean NC State was supposed to have a strong defense too, and Notre Dame put up 45 on them. So
true. That's a good point. I would have guessed that they didn't score 45 against them.
Yeah.
So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
We'll have to see. Let's see. Where are we at now? Oh, Iowa at Penn State. That minus 14.5 is the point spread, not Iowa's team total. But yeah, they host the Hawkeyes. I just see a lot more of the same from Iowa's offense, and I'll admit, like, I haven't seen them. Like, I haven't watched every single one of their games start to finish, but just it just feels like the same types of challenges, the same kind of ineptitude that we've been seeing. So I know that Penn State had kind of what some people are calling a shaky performance last go around. I think that they're able to kind of correct that. It was the first time on the road. They're back in Happy Valley, and I've got them winning. I don't know. I mean, I want to say they cover, but the Iowa defense is still salty. Like,
yep.
I love what they do defensively. I think I'm not going to make this one an official play either, but I think Ohio State scores enough.
Even Penn State.
Yeah, sorry.
So the line that you're looking at is, so we're looking at 42 points. We're looking at a 28-14 kind of victory about, at a 14.5 point line. So 28 to 13.
And the thing is, like, I could see this being a game where, much like last year, where Iowa's defense keeps them in it, and eventually once the dam breaks, like it really opens up. And so I am tempted to take Penn State minus 14.5, but I'm not going to. That's the side I think I lean. Yeah,
at all, because you never know what Iowa's defense is going to do. Penn State hasn't lit up the scoreboard this year.
No, you're right.
Not the quality opponent that Iowa defense is, that Iowa is. So I'm not touching this. 41.5 is low, but reasonable. And yeah, I'm not touching the spread or anything. Like, I think the spread's about right, and the line's about right. It scares me.
Yeah, always. Here's the one that this is a surprising number to me. Texas at Baylor. Baylor is 14.5 point home underdogs. And I feel like I'm stealing money saying, give me Texas in the points.
Amen. Yep.
Or give me Texas to cover. Excuse me, not.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with you.
Yeah, so I've got Texas going on the road to win. I know they had a challenge last week with Wyoming. To me, that's like, okay, we just beat Alabama, right? Like, of course we're going to be over the moon and probably not as focused. We've had that little wake up call. And I expect them to be locked in and to kiss Baylor goodbye in terms of the Big 12 matchup that will no longer be. Give me Texas to go on the road at Waco, or in Waco, and to cover the 14.5 points.
Second it. Everything you said. I mean, this Texas team should blow this team out, in my opinion. And if you want to make a statement, get up there at 42-10, 42-17.
Yeah. The last one that's on this list, and then I might go through a couple others. North Carolina at Pittsburgh. Again, kind of a surprising line here that North Carolina is only favored by a touchdown. They are on the road. Pittsburgh hasn't really done anything to inspire any confidence in them. So I'm curious what your take is on this one, Corey.
Nope, I'm 100% on you. I'm like, yeah, give me the 7 points. Like, I'm taking them there. Away. Wait, even. Huh?
Oh, you're choosing North Carolina, or
North Carolina at Pitt with favored by 7. I think that's potential. Who is this real North Carolina team? That's the biggest question. Is like, and we don't know. Like, are they the team that let App State sit in the game? Are they the team that shut down South Carolina? Or I mean, even shut down Minnesota. Minnesota hasn't been, spectacular, but they only allowed 13 points to Minnesota. At Minnesota, they've done the away thing. They're kind of used to playing there. Although, for what it's worth, I can pull up statistics on Drake May. I think he's like 8 touchdowns, 8 interceptions this year. Let me make sure that's correct. 4 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. So he's thrown as many touchdowns as he has interceptions. He's been a little bit of a gunslinger, but they've got the running backs to lean on too. This is a team that has the opportunity to be balanced, so they're going to win this game.
Yeah. So just one point of clarification: this is at Pittsburgh, and this is North Carolina's first true road game. So they were at home against Minnesota.
Were they at home against Minnesota?
They were. They had a neutral site with South Carolina to open the season in Charlotte. So kind of not their first time, traveling to a game, but what kind of environment actually awaits them. I don't think it's going to be the most hostile thing that
it is a night
that you're going into now that Pitt's 1-2, though. I think there's been some cold water poured on this season. I don't know.
At the same time,
I think you're kind of getting to the
clock in Pittsburgh, So
say it one more time. Sorry.
What else is there to do at 8:00 at Pittsburgh though? Like it is a night game. It's going to be pretty late.
That's true. Do the Steelers play at home that week? Like, are people going to have to try and rally for the next game, or are they going to say, oh, Pitt's 1-2, the Steelers play at home that next week or the next day? I don't know that. I'm just saying if that was the case, I would imagine some might be like, I'm going to skip the Pittsburgh, the Panthers game and stick to the Steelers.
Also, give me the over. I don't expect this Pitt team to do much. I expect North Carolina will beat this team pretty well. 50 points. You're looking at a 25, or you're looking at a 32 to. You're looking at a 28 to 21 kind of game, 29 to 21. What they're expecting. I think North Carolina can score more than that. I think they can go 35-40 on this team.
I just don't expect Pitt to hold up their end of the bargain there.
We'll see.
I think Pitt might only score 10, so I need North Carolina to hit a 40 burger on them.
I also don't think North Carolina's defense is as good as they were against some other teams.
So but I don't know if you have to be. The thing that might help them is hey, Dracovic might throw it to you and you might score on defense. So,
yeah. He's 4 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. So they both have thrown a bunch of interceptions.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Pittsburgh plays at a slower pace. I think that the total's one I don't want to touch. North Carolina should win this game by more than 7. They should. I have got some nerves about, again, the last couple of games have played out a little bit closer than I thought they would. I mean, obviously they covered the spread against Minnesota. But I need to see them kind of put together a full offensive and defensive effort. I don't know if we've really seen that to date. Even in the South Carolina game, 28 points.
9 sacks. That's the one thing that was beneficial, or 8 sacks.
Yeah, that part. They played well. They played well on defense, but I think I don't think a ton of South Carolina's defense either, and so I thought there was probably opportunity to score more. Granted, I say that the week after Georgia only put up 24 points on them, so maybe they got a little bit more than I think. I don't know if I dare put my chips on North Carolina again. I got nervous this last go around. It just felt like, man, they should be winning this game by more based on how the game was playing out. But I would lean toward North Carolina covering that just because I don't trust Pittsburgh. And I'm going to go for it. It's an official play. North Carolina -7 on the road. Officially official. I don't know if there are other games you wanted to cover. There's maybe one or two others.
I just want to hear your thoughts on that one.
Oh, man, that game could go any way.
Kansas is favored by 10 in that game.
They're favored by 10?
I think it's 9.5. And then I think the over-under is
55.5 according to DraftKings.
Oh, it's 5.5 according to DraftKings?
Sorry, 55.5 is the 55. Total.
Yeah. BYU's defense is their running defense has been surprisingly good this year. We thought they'd get torched, and they've only allowed 99 yards a game.
Yeah, I mean, the Arkansas one is the only real surprising result there for me, and it's just kind of I don't know. Again, I don't love their defensive line. I don't like BYU's defensive line. Nothing is really they bullied Arkansas from a pass rush perspective in the second half, and that to me is you know, that to me is more an indictment on Arkansas's offensive line than it is like a big like
I
feather in
think
the
they're a
cap of
decent
BYU's
pass rushing
defensive
team. I don't
line.
think they're. I'm not sure they're a decent run, defense team. But,
And you did get, that's a good opportunity. Again, I wish you would have seen KJ Jefferson run the ball more to see how they played it. I feel like they just didn't, they underutilized his legs in that game, in the offensive game plan for Arkansas. But it would have been a really good opportunity to try and prepare for Jalen Daniels at Kansas. I think he's much faster than KJ Jefferson, but you get a chance to take a try at a mobile quarterback that's both that at least represents physically kind of what Jalen Daniels can do from a physicality and running tough perspective. But I I don't know, on the
I'm
road
not putting on the game. I
-9.
just wanted to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I don't know. And then you get Kansas, who had like a crazy travel week and played really close at Nevada, um, in a game that was surprisingly close throughout. So I I I don't know. I don't know what this BYU team is. I think this is a really important data point for me to
Yeah,
kind of figure out what BYU is and what Kansas is, because I think Kansas has played kind of right on par with where I'd expect them to outside of the Nevada game. So the Nevada game to me is like, was that a blip on the radar, or was that now that teams have a little bit more film and are kind of better acquainted with what Kansas is doing offensively, particularly with Jalen Daniels now back in the lineup, who didn't start that first week. Um, yeah, I think I would take BYU to cover the 9, but to lose the game. Not an official play for me, but I
yeah.
think
No, I
that's
think
what it
that's
is.
probably where I am. I mean, I already told you I was high on Kansas than most people were. I think I had them like third or fourth in the Big 12 when we did our things. I still think that's probably true. I'm like looking at the schedule. I'm like, you lose to Texas. It's probably close with UCF. You probably beat Oklahoma State. You probably lose to Oklahoma. You probably beat Iowa State. You probably beat Texas Tech, and then you have Kansas State and Cincinnati. I think you beat Cincinnati. You might lose. So you're looking at 3-4 losses for this Kansas team potentially.
Yeah, something like that. Um,
So,
all right, one more that I just want to talk about for just a second. We kind of mentioned it on the last pod. Oregon State, Washington State, 3-point favorites are the Beavers heading into Pullman, going to Washington State. Um, this is a fun sort of styles make fights kind of a game where uh, Washington State's going to want to throw the ball around. They're not, they're kind of let Cam Ward make plays with his legs, but usually with his legs to open up throwing lanes. Um, and Oregon State's going to, run two tight ends, a single back, and run the ball right at you, throw off play action. Um, this is an interesting one, kind of a clash of styles here, and I think the Beavers go in and I think they win the game, and I think they cover the 3-point spread. Give me Oregon State.
you said three? Is it three?
Yeah, it's Oregon State -3 on the road.
Yeah, I'll take that. I agree. I have a lot of
Yes.
predictions. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. If
Yeah.
it's free money, I don't have to put money line on it.
Yeah, exactly.
If it wasn't, that'd be
um,
$1,700 I'd be laying out right there.
yeah. Real quick before we wrap, or I don't know if there are other games you wanted to cover, but um, can we just tip our cap to Wyoming for having what I think is probably the most difficult non-conference schedule for like a team of their caliber? So they hosted Texas Tech. They played Texas on the road. This week they host Appalachian State. Like, man, they did not get a break. Like, where is your we're playing some directional school from, you from Montana that we can just we can log a win on.
Yeah, they played
Craig
Portland
Bowl,
State, who beat somebody like 91-0 this last week.
yeah, Portland State, the Vikings. A buddy of mine lives a couple. Well, buddy of mine, like a recent acquaintance that I've made, played receiver at Portland State for a couple years. Um, Yeah, just lives like a couple doors down from me. I was like, oh, go Vikings. He's like, yeah, man, we're looking strong this year. So I think he was bullish on what they're able to do, and that number I didn't know that. That's amazing. But yeah, tip of the cap to Wyoming for just playing anyone and anywhere. They are 2-point favorites at home. I don't have a play on that. I'm betting Wyoming wins that game, but I wonder if, having been going into the fourth quarter tied with Texas and then having the fourth quarter just be
Fall
as
apart.
lopsided, yeah, as lopsided as it was. And they were playing with their backup QB. Did you know that?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Me neither. I heard that elsewhere. I can't remember where I heard that. Um, but yeah, the starter wasn't even playing, and they were playing that tough. So um, yeah, I just salute to them for doing that. Um,
And can we
Minnesota,
also just point out, we go back to Portland State. Portland State,
yeah,
State had 81 points scored on them by Oregon, and then they scored 91 on another team.
you got to balance it out, right? You got to get the sour taste out of your mouth with like with a similar type of victory.
Yeah, and they didn't
Uh,
even play the. I don't think they played the fourth quarter against that team either.
oh, did they not? Did they just call it? Said we're
There's
done
0
here.
points scored in that fourth quarter.
Hmm. Yeah, which if you scored 91, one would assume. Okay, one more game, and I'm curious on your take on this one here. Um, so USC plays Arizona State. They are on the road. It's at Arizona State. The line is -34. Does USC win by more than 5 touchdowns?
Arizona
I
State,
think they did.
especially since they don't have the quarterback. Yeah,
Yeah, I think USC minus 34. Give me that one. The one question that I have there is like, how quick do they go to the backups? Do they go to the backups super early and it becomes a problem
yeah.
for us to cover that number?
I'm not putting money
I,
on
I
that number. I'm not making it official, but
I'm gonna say that's one of my official picks here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Good, 11. So that we no going 500. I will either win or I will either lose. That's how I like it. Anything else?
I'm excited to watch this. I'm I want to be on 15 different screens if I can because there's going to be so many good games. And there's games that like are not even the big games that I'm interested in. So like it's going to be a great week.
Yeah, I think there's all kinds of like low key matchups, like James Madison at Utah State. That seems like that's gonna be a killer game.
Go
James
Aggies.
Madison, what?
Go
Go
Aggies.
Aggies. Yeah, but James Madison just wins everything. They've gone up to the Division 1 for last year was their first year, and all they've done is just win. Like maybe they were just one of the best kept secrets in the sport. So can they go to Logan and win that game? That like it's wild. Like the number of games that you've got that are just like Memphis and Missouri. What does Missouri do for an encore? Like
Yeah.
after that win, they're only 7-point favorites at home versus Memphis, which is
Who's undefeated,
okay.
right? They look great under Ryan so far.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a make or break year for him. So like so far they're so good. Um, what better place to maybe capitalize on a team that's reading their headlines than the ones that won on a 61-yard field goal at the end of regulation? There's just a lot of games that are really interesting, and some really good matchups up and down the slate. So I'm pumped to see it as well.
Wrap it up.
All right. Well, we'll see you and see how right or wrong my picks are. Again, I'm 2 weeks straight being above 500, so this is the one probably that I come crashing down to earth. Um, but yeah, excited to see it all. And this is the CFB Paint Crew for Court and Steve, and for Brian, who's not with us, and Mark, who maybe will join us once again at some point. We're signing off. Thanks again. Like, subscribe, share the pod. We appreciate it. Have a good week. We'll see you next time.